Hey. All right, so I know it's been a hot little minute since I've done an actual episode. So, welcome back. Welcome. If you are new, welcome to the Unearth with Sasha-Shae podcast. And hey, I'm Sasha-Shae if you're not familiar. So, before 2023 actually fully wraps up, right? Which, crazy to say, that's in a few days. Wild. I wanted to get on here, make sure I do this episode because this has been on my mind for a hot little minute. So, essentially this is just talking about more still on along the lines of like embracing those pivots that life throws at you, but also getting into the idea of us being comfortable with just God's plan, right? And with that, we don't always know what God's plan is. So, how do we embrace it? How do we be okay with it? Especially when things just look like they are going south. All right. So, I don't want to make this super long. This episode, I'm really want to keep this short. So, I just have, I guess, a sort of testimony, story time situation to share with y'all. And hopefully, the point will come across. So, I know I released a bonus episode. Not sure how many people were able to see or hear that one, but I will leave a link for it in the show notes of this particular episode so y'all could check that out to get a little bit more of the background story of where this one is coming from. So, needless to say, sometime in this year, this was start of summer, yeah, around the start of the summer, um, myself and my husband, we basically ended up facing like I guess you would say a whirlwind situation in terms of housing and all of that, right? And needless to say, it's funny thinking about it because, for several years, it was something where it was on our mind. Like, we do want to move from where we were, but where are we going to go? How are we going to get to wherever it is that we want to go? Those type of things, those kind of questions would come up. But it was never anything where it's like, yeah, right now, definitely for sure this year, definitely not this year. Like that was never ever in our mind for this year. But funny enough, I know a good friend and sister of mine, we were having a conversation maybe like 2 weeks or so prior to us, to myself and my husband getting this whole news situation. And I was just, it just kind of came heavy again on my spirit about like, yeah, Lord, um, it would be nice if we moved. I don't know where we're going to go or how that's going to work out because, me speaking to God, like, my personal situation. And you just know, like, right now, things aren't exactly, I guess, how I would have anticipated for them to be. So I don't know how that would work out. Anyways, fast forwarding, right? Like I said, some of this backstory is in the other episode, and I'll be sure to link it. Um, we basically got a notice randomly, just randomly on one like one Tuesday evening, randomly. That basically was like, listen, man, y'all, you guys were great tenants, blah, blah, blah. This, the third, the fourth, the fifth. But needless to say, y'all pretty much have to get out of our place, right? And we're like, oh, didn't see this one coming. So essentially, that definitely had me personally just be on this kind of a question like, all right, God, what's going on, right? And then we ended up, I want to say that same day when it happened, I know initially the thought that came to mind for me was like, well, this is sudden, random, unexpected. Huh, this feels like it's a test. So I remember basically just telling myself, like, you know what? I am not about to freak out or worry and start really getting into like depressive cycles or any of that kind of reaction that I mean granted, rightfully so, right? Would typically come in situations like that. I remember saying to myself, instead, what I'm going to do is to just pray and praise my way through it. And I remember spending the next day, the Wednesday, the whole day, pretty much just praying, praising, and carrying on with the stuff that I had to do in my life, and was just like, listen, Lord, this is one, highly unexpected, two, quite sudden, so you must have a plan for what's going on here. So, needless to say, by the Thursday, again, I'm not going to go through the full details of this because I kind of already shared this part in the previous episode. But yeah, I remember basically by the Thursday we had gotten news that, essentially we got a place or the prospect of a place. All that to say, that place didn't work out, and that became a whole thing. But fast forward in towards the end of that, which would put us in around September ish of this year. Um, I remember we pretty much realized, like, okay, the places that we thought we were going to be at, that it initially seemed like, yes, this is what's going to happen. This is where we're for sure going to be. We started to realize quickly, like, yeah, this not gonna work out at all. Like, now it's officially fallen through, right? I remember coming back from a weekend trip, and pretty much it's like I kind of just knew, like, it was about to get really real, like, it was already real, but it was about to be really real right now. And I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, this week is about to be like the make or break week, because at that point when I had gotten back, um I knew by the weekend that was coming up that we were at the time technically supposed to have been in, whatever place it was at the time that we thought we were going to be at, that we had thought we got, and then realized, like, yeah, due to, whatever different situations with, like, building codes, all these different things just didn't work out. So I was thinking to myself, like, you know, this is about to get really real, real fast. So I remember, like, pretty much even in that week too, like, the attacks from the enemy, right? So let's stick a pin here real quick. One thing to note is that oftentimes when we make the decisions to be like, you know what, Lord, I am all in. I'm definitely doing my best to live my life to serve you the way that you actually called me to serve you. I want to see your hand at work in my life. I want to make sure that I am, just doing the things that please you, right? We all know the devil is waiting, lurking around, ready to do the attack. So we were not exempt. I mean, the whole time between, like, June to that September, it was definitely some really wild things that were going on. But then it really escalated there in that month of September, especially because then it became like a whole attack on our character. We had defamation of our character, basically broad, wild, blatant lies. And, to this day, I'm still just like, it's really real when people tell you, like, you would never think the people who turn out to be basically acts like your enemies, like who it would have been, and you're just like, wow, I would have never seen this coming, but okay, good to know. So anyways, needless to say, yeah, the during that last week when I had came back from that trip, like I said, I just remember it being to the point where it was just like, okay, these lies, these whole wild, crazy, erroneous, defamation of character and whatever. It was just to the point where, for me personally, I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna be staying in some place where a person really feels in themselves comfortable enough to being like this kind of slander, this kind of lie, just because you want us quote unquote out of your place. So I was like, you know what, Lord? I mean, I've been through a lot of challenges, but like this kind of was to an extreme now. But I was like, I don't know what you want us to do, But then part of me was just like, I mean, the only way for me to really trust God, right, is going to be to put him to the test. And that would look like one, again, personally for me, I didn't feel comfortable staying in no place where, again, this is what's happening and it's all because we're quote unquote in your place, right? So I was just like, all right, Jesus, clearly you see our desire is to leave. Like we've been looking, we've done everything. At this point, I don't even know how many places we had went to and seen, how many applications we had put in, and it was just like one thing after the other. Things always seemed like they were gonna go well, and then at the last moment they just completely door closed. Or people, we've even had a few incidents where it was just like blatant racism, where they they took the information and they basically never even like opened the application. Like a whole lot of stuff happened between the June through September interim. But anyways, so I remember during that same last weekend of the September, I remember basically being like, you know what, God, yeah, like I really, really do not feel comfortable, and my spirit is also very uneasy with this whole situation of how it is now going down, how it is, the whole defamation of character and all these things. And I just need for you to basically provide us a place, because what's going on? So, long story short, we end up, well, not even we, I ended up talking to like a friend of ours, and it was just kind of like explaining the fact that, yeah, technically we had said for sure we were supposed to have been out within October, because originally one of the other places that um, we had and we thought was for sure going to be the place, that was the that was the time frame or whatever. And as I said before, that fell through at the very last minute. That place actually fell through practically the last week of September. So you understand, it's just like everything was happening all at once. But anyways, so I was talking to the friend, and like, needless to say, they basically mentioned like, they have a friend where sometimes they used to like stay by the friend or whatever. So essentially the arrangement was made where it was like myself, my husband, we would go there. We're gonna stay in that person's place. It was supposed to be for like a few days. And we were like, all right, cool. That will give us enough time for one of the other applications, right? To come through. So, all right, cool. At least we'll be able to pack up the truck, get out of the people's place, and we'll just go with God from there, right? So that was the plan, and that's essentially what happened. Where we spent too many hours on that Sunday, at the start of October, pretty much packing up everything in the world. I mean, we were already packed, but like the actual act of moving the stuff from the actual apartment into the trucks. Yeah, y'all know that process. It's tedious. So that took forever to do that. And then we also had to from there, from the truck into storage, because again, we didn't have a place, but we just, we felt good to know that, okay, while we don't technically have a home, quote unquote, just yet, at least we're able to come out of the place and put stuff in storage, and then we'll be at this friend's place, and we could try to figure it out in the next few days, right? That was the plan. So fast forward in a bit, so we get to the friend's place, and we are there, and we're like, it's funny because this was in a part of the a part of the area where we're just like, the chances of us ever living in that area slim to none, right? Because I think both of us, we had ideas that um that area is just like mm-mm. So being there, we were able to see like, wow, there's actually, nicer areas to that particular part of town or whatever. So we were there, and we started to realize like, um okay, God, what's going on here? Because the plan was we were gonna be here for maybe like 4 days, four-ish, five at most. But then the same thing is happening again, where it's like putting in applications, going to how many different viewings for different places, all over the. At this point, it's like all over the place, all over the place. Like, yeah, and it's just like, okay, what's going on? Like, why does it always seem like the open door, and then at the very last minute it's the closed door? So now we're basically at that place for what, two, I think it was almost a full 2 weeks that we ended up being in that place. And then that for both of us was stressful, because it was just like, oh my gosh, this was not this was definitely not what was supposed to happen. And okay, Lord, what's really going on? So of course, as you know, with stuff like this, tensions begin to brew, right? Because now it's more like, man, um one, you're wondering what in the world is the Lord doing. Secondly, there's other little petty stuff where sometimes the devil will, of course, again try to sneak in, and the blame game start. Oh well, if you did this wouldn't have happened, right? As far as like, why did we end up leaving out the place? Because technically it was illegal for them to kick us out of the place we originally were, especially in the way that they did it, kind of thing. Um, so all these little things would come up, and it was just like, all right, God, now I'm definitely at the stage of like, I guess, wonder, frustration, and just trying to actually remain patient. So, um, after we were there for like the 2 weeks, I remember the it was like the day we were getting ready to leave, because I then felt like, yo, we were never planning to stay in this person's house for 2 weeks. It's already way past the point. So, the agitation in my spirit again. And I was just like, yeah, we gotta go. Like, I don't know where we're gonna go, but we gotta go, because this was never this was never the plan, right? And it's funny, there was also a place that we looked at for rent that was in that same vicinity of that, friend's place that we were staying at. And that also felt like, yes, it's gonna go good, until again, the very last minute, where it was just like, oh, now they have a random roadblock on their end. And, they weren't even sure how long that's gonna take before it would have like actually been lifted and cleared, and the green light for people to come in. So it was just like, okay, Lord, what is going on? So, needless to say, we packed up. I remember I I think I reached out to another friend of ours that was like further in the state, further north in the state, and I was just explaining to them the current situation, and it was just like, hey, could we come and could we stay with you for a few days, because we're still in the process of basically waiting to hear back from all these different places that we have looked at. And until somebody basically gives us a definitive yes, we're technically still in limbo land and displaced, right? So could we come stay with you for a few days? And they said yes, after they spoke to their spouse and everything. So we packed up that day to start heading towards them. And it was pretty much that same day, we as we're like packing up and stuff, I remember my husband, he got a call, and it was like First of all, he almost didn't pick up the call because the number was random. It was a random number, and he was just like, mm. But then he picked up, and essentially it was just like definitely divine appointment because the realtor lady who contacted him, she essentially was just like, hey, she saw his application that he had put in for a place and she wanted to know if anyone ever got back to him. And he was just like, nah, nobody ever, nobody ever responded, contacted, nothing. So, needless to say, she was basically like, oh, so are y'all still looking and whatever? We're like, yeah, we definitely are. So she basically was just like, all right, cool. She will send him information about some different places and stuff, options and all that. So at this point, I remember for both of us, we definitely had learned at that point, because again, by this point, we must have looked at definitely well over like 23rd. I don't know. It was a lot of places. And we've learned at that point where it's just like, don't get your hopes up too much because it always seems great until it ain't. So, um, we were just like, yeah, send us the stuff. We're definitely have the hope there, but again, we're trying to not be all like, oh, too much. Next thing, it ends like all the others, where it's just like, oh, okay, all right, back to the drawing board. So I think she sent the stuff either the same day or the next day. So by then, we're now at the other friend's place, and we had a really good time there, spending the time there with them, and just being able to really have some peace and quiet as well, and really just spend more time thinking, praying with God, like, all right, Lord, we don't know what you're doing. Like, we've definitely done all that we could do in our own strength and humanness, right? And it's definitely now fully for sure in your hands because we don't know what else you want us to do. So I want to say within the start of the second week or towards the end of because we got there to this friend's place probably like middle of the week, maybe the Wednesday or the Thursday, one of the two. And I think she when the realtor sent over some places, there were some that were amazing, amazing. But we realized like, yeah, those probably won't work for us for many different reasons. And then she had sent a few other places and stuff. So we're like, yeah, we'll look further into these particular ones. And then she gave us the run through of like the application, the all that stuff, like the stuff you got to send over, your details, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. Most of y'all are familiar with that. So we did that, and I think she had mentioned casually at one point because it was like the Thursday or the Friday or something like that, and she was saying something to the effect of like, we probably would not hear back until the following week because essentially something due to the Sabbath. I don't know if she had said to him that they keep the Sabbath or just something, but something Sabbath related. And I just remember him telling me, like, he said, oh, that's not going to be a problem because we observe the Sabbath too. So, you know, for me, I was just like, okay. So I was like, all right, Lord, right now, this is thus far one of the more promising leads, you know? So we're like, all right, let's see. Cause again, we don't wanna get too excited and then, it becomes again another like closed door situation. So we had a great Sabbath. The Monday comes now, and essentially the Monday we found out like, you guys got approved. At this point it was just like, honestly, it was super surreal because we were just like, wow, the all the weight of like everything, the wonder, the having to, question like, okay, God, what exactly are you doing? It was just like it all came full circle in that moment. And as well for me, it became something where he meaning God used it to remind me like, yeah, a lot of times when he tells me stuff or shows me stuff or whatever the case is, it may not be evident to other people, may not be evident to my husband, it may not be evident to anyone, right? Else but me, but I need to be okay and certain and sure in what it is that he actually has said, right? So it was definitely a moment for me as well to just become more, I guess you could say, aware of how he actually speaks to me and like being able to discern his voice more. And that's something for sure I'm 1,000, 10,000% praying more on, where it's, like being able to learn better discernment, really being able to be willing to be submissive to God and his Holy Spirit, and, really just better understand him. But yeah, so, caveat aside. So now we get to the phase of like, yes, we got a yes. And what's next, right? Because now it was still, I think at that point, it was still a matter of, all right, we still now gonna have to wait until the full approval. They get the, because y'all know the process. It's like you get the approval, but then you'd have to pay your deposit. Then after that's done, and they set things up in your name and all that stuff, then they hand the key over. So all of that could take like anywhere from a week to whatever, right? So we're like, okay. This is probably gonna be another week or so. All right, where do we go now? So then again, y'all know what's coming. What did I do? I called another friend. And I have to say, throughout this, I'm so thankful that one, God places people in, my life or lives that are willing to be hospitable to us, willing to be helpful, willing to just, yeah, really just, open their homes, their hearts, all of that to us. And I definitely don't take that lightly at all. Like, yeah, I definitely don't take that lightly at all. And then also, I'm just thankful too for the fact that, what I used to think was, it was just kind of awkward and weird, like me being able to, I guess, quickly make friends or just meet people and, form friendships, that type of stuff. But I've seen definitely way more times than I, than I can even mention right now, where it's just like, yeah, that's actually not a terrible thing. It's actually a blessing in disguise to be able to just be a really, truly, genuinely friendly person with people and actually care and, all that, and form true relationships and stuff. So, yeah, just thankful for those things. So, yeah, like I said, called another friend and was like, hey, explain the situation where we are now. And, was asking like, hey, I think, because I think at that point we had left the friends up north and we were gonna go stay at an Airbnb for a few days, because I think at that point husband had to do work closer again in, the city closer to where we originally were before this whole charade happened. And it was just like, yeah, okay, we're gonna be in the Airbnb for a few days, but then what? Because I think he had said it where, oh, we're gonna leave the Thursday, but it was like, sir, you're not gonna be here the Thursday, you're gonna be already gone, and it's just like, how would we move the stuff out of the Airbnb at that point? So anyways, we realized we have to leave probably like the Wednesday night or so. So I, again, like I said, called this other friend and was like, explain the situation of where we are. And was just like, hey, could we just come at that point? Definitely, it was gonna be no more than up until I want to say the following Sunday, because I think at that point we were already told like, yeah, we're gonna get the key to the new place, and it's going to, yeah, we would probably get it, probably, I want to say maybe the Friday or the Sabbath or so. So it was, it was for sure something where we had in mind like, yeah, we we know we want to um leave early that Sunday morning. So the longest we'd be at this new place is going to be up until that Sunday. So needless to say, um, it came together, and I have to say, like, the Lord definitely works out in the details. Like, yes, this place may not, like where we are now may not be exactly what we had imagined or hoped for in terms of like, certain things we had said was like when we originally ever thought about like, oh, if we move from the place we previously were, the kind of things that we would want in a place. Well, first of all, we had wanted where when we moved from that place, it would have been like we would move into our own home, you know, that's not the case just yet, but prayerfully we're getting there, right? We're gonna get there. But it just, kind of shows me where it's like, yeah, sometimes you have, mm, I wouldn't say pitfalls, but like, just little diversions or little stops along the way to the actual goal, and it's quite okay. Um, the things may not turn out exactly how you imagined, but you could definitely see his hand at work through it all, right? Um, so yeah, needless to say, we got to this place. At first we thought it was gonna, like, I don't know, y'all know how it is when you view a place when it's empty. It feels real small to you until you actually get the stuff in it and you realize, oh, it's actually pretty decent space. So needless to say, we're in the new place, and it's just like, thank the Lord that throughout all that journey, he really showed us like how to trust, how to continue to just, rest in him despite what it is that we see happening, and as well what we cannot see happening, right? Because like I said, throughout this whole process, we've had all them lies that were told, and then we've had, you know, people just not even show up for when they're supposed to give us viewings, or people who blatantly were racist in the process and we're just like, yeah, no, they're not submitting the application, or we've had just people who even was just like, oh, they tell you one thing in the process, but then I remember we had a case where they tell you one fee in the thing, but then by like 2 days later, the thing went up like three different times. How? It's just like, okay, scam. So you know what I mean? Like all these different things that would happen, and we're just like, yeah. But throughout this entire process, a verse that always sticks in my mind, of course, is Jeremiah 29, which verse 11, which everyone's familiar with, but it definitely, I want to say, ties in well with this. And I'll just read it quickly from the NLT version. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." And I'll continue with 12 and 13 and 14, which says, "In those days when you pray, I will listen. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. I will be found by you, says the Lord. I will end your captivity and restore your fortunes. I will gather you out of the nations where I sent you and will bring you home again to your own land." And I just know that throughout this whole process, verse 11 for sure was something that, kept repeating in my mind, just the idea that he knows exactly the plans that he has for us, and his plans are good. You know, his plans are not meant to harm. They're not meant to bring disaster. They are for the good, right? And ultimately, not just for our good, but ultimately they are to give his name honor and glory. And throughout this whole thing, absolutely, the only person who could get honor, praise, glory throughout this entire thing was God, because it was just like, yeah, things that came together, things that started to orchestrate, you know, it was very evident, like, yeah, ain't nobody else but God could have done that. So, um, all this I wanted to just share as a reminder, like, yeah, sometimes we may not necessarily see beyond, just beyond or immediate like hands and vision right here. But one, be in tune with the Holy Spirit. Like, actually take that time to discern his voice, discern, I guess, how he speaks to you, because he speaks to each of us very differently. It's not going to always be um inclinations where you have a feeling, or it doesn't always turns out to be dreams. It doesn't, it happens in different ways. It could be he speaks to people to tell you specific things, or he confirms, my point is, you know exactly how it is that he speaks to you. And if you don't know, this is that invitation to, like, and myself too, to start reading his word more, really getting more into time with him, one-on-one time with him, and just allowing him to, yeah, really reveal himself, right? And then as well, this was just a reminder for myself, and hopefully an encouragement to you that are listening, watching, that, yeah, things sometimes can get real crazy, really go south quickly. But because we've decided to trust in him, because we've decided to, live our lives for him, ultimately, he's going to use everything for our good. And again, his plans for us are good. He does not plan to harm us. He does not intend to he does not intend to, make us be distressed and in despair. And yes, it definitely felt, it was a whirlwind of emotions, like I said, that we experienced through this process, because again, you have yeah, you have those feelings where you're just like, so how come? Because I think we were displaced for a total of, I think it was 29 days. So, like, yeah, 1 day shy of a whole month. You know what I mean? Like, for a lot of people, because I remember even a few people, like, when they would check in on us during this whole process, something that people kept repeating is like, they could tell, like, the Lord is keeping us and keeping me, because typically in a situation like that, with everything that's going on, people would just be like, you know pretty much like, almost like what Job's wife told Job to do, just curse God and die, or turn your back and walk away, kind of thing. And while it was crazy and upsetting, it was still never, it was never in my mind or our mind to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna be like, forget you, God. It was just like, nah, he must have a reason for why he is doing this the way that he's doing it, and he must have some sort of lesson that he is trying to teach. And while I don't like it, and I'm not necessarily enjoying the process of it, who am I to be all like, I'm gonna be upset now. So what is it? I'm supposed to be all happy and hunky dory when God does great things, amazing things. Yay, praise the Lord. But now the one, the one, obviously there are many other times, but the one quote unquote time right now that something real crazy happens, oh, I'm supposed to now be like, forget you, God. No, like, that doesn't make sense. So that as well was a reminder to me, like, yeah, things will get tough, things will look crazy. Things will feel absolutely unfair, and sometimes they really are unfair. And you're just wondering, like, okay, Lord, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't know why this is happening. However, help me to continue to trust you. Help me to continue to lean on you and know that you are going to use all these things for my good and for your name's honor and glory. So, with that, I just wanted to leave y'all. Thanks for rocking with me. I know this one's a little bit longer, even though I said I was trying to keep it short, but y'all got to understand I left out a lot. I was trying to just give you the highlight reel here. But yes, I just wanted to, encourage all of us as we continue on this journey. Just keep keep leaning on him and voice your frustrations, even if you feel like you are in a tough spot and you're just like, Lord, I don't know what's going on, what you are doing. I cannot see it, fathom it, conceive of it. I'm asking for you to show me. Voice it to him. He's definitely big enough to handle it. But yeah, enough of my going on and on. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. This will be the last episode for this year. I hope y'all come back with me in the 2024 season as the Lord spares our lives. And with that, have a wonderful, happy holidays, all that situations. Enjoy your time with family. And I know the holiday season isn't always happy for everyone, right? We have a wide array of emotions. However, you find yourself in this season, I just hope that it is at least a good one. And, you find comfort and solace in knowing that the Lord definitely loves you. He's definitely with you. It doesn't matter how things look. Just know that he truly cares and he truly loves you. And yeah, I am going to catch you guys in the another episode. All right. Thumbs up if you like this. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you are listening on a platform, streaming platform somewhere like, your Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, that type of thing, absolutely be sure to follow, download. I don't know what they call it. Subscribe on the podcast. And yeah, thanks again. If you have any comments and all that stuff, leave it on the video, leave it on the post, or feel free to send me a DM at the Sasha-Shae, and I will just dialogue with you. All right, bye.